Good morning, everyone. This is Drew Erickson back again to talk about money, not math, because I believe almost everyone loves money but don't necessarily enjoy math. Today, I'm reading an article about the 4 ways to not outlive your retirement savings by Annie Nova on CNBC.com. And she's a reporter, it appears, for them. So in this article, she outlines, like she said in the title, 4 ways to not outlive your retirement. The first one is the 4% rule. So it's kind of funny when I read this. For those of you not familiar with the 4% rule, it's essentially what you do is if you have $1 million of retirement assets, the 4% rule says that you should have a pretty good chance of not running out of money before you pass away if you only pull 4% of your assets each year. So if you have $1 million, you can pull 4%, which is $40,000. Now, whether you think $1 million is a lot or $40,000 is a lot to live off of, that's up to you, and each person's different. But the thing you need to keep in mind with the 4% rule that almost is never talked about is that $40,000 that you're pulling out pre-tax or after tax? Because I think we can all agree that if it's pre-tax, you're not actually getting to spend $40,000. You get whatever's after the tax, your income tax rate at that time, which if you have $1 million and things like that, it might be higher than you'd like it to be. The second thing to be aware with the 4% rule is it doesn't account for market fluctuations. So if you have $1 million the first year and you happen to retire in 2006 or 7, and all of a sudden the market dives 39%, well, do you still take $40,000 because that was the original $1 million that you had, even though you're only going to have about a little over $600,000 left in your account? Or do you decrease your 4% to the new 600,000 plus level in your account, which is going to significantly decrease your income, which would significantly affect how you can live your life? And if you're going into retirement, be dependent on that $40,000 a year, how feasible is it for you to switch your entire lifestyle and all your expenses around to your new reality of 4% of your new account? So some things to be aware of there that I think are interesting. The other thing I think is interesting is that the so-called 4% rule was made up or created almost 2 decades ago. And this is something that's very fascinating to me about the financial planning industry, is when everything in every industry, especially in the United States, but just in our country, everything has evolved, especially with technology over the last 20 years. Everything has evolved. Almost nothing is the same. So why does the financial industry still want to use the same rules, the same strategies, the same ideas that they've been using for 50, 60, 70 years when every other industry has been progressing and changing and kind of updating their ways, we'll say. So that's just something to think about. The second rule, and I apologize, this is kind of a long article. I'll try to keep it to around 5 minutes or less, but I also have to make sure I don't talk too fast because I'm known for that, for anyone who knows me. The second rule is dynamic spending. So this is a twist on the 4% rule. Instead of having a flat 4% withdrawal rate, now they recommend we set a ceiling and a floor for our rule. So let's say in this example, they say if you have $1 million, maybe your maximum annual withdrawal is 5% if the market goes up. So you're like, hey, great year, great, I'll pull out a little bit more, have a great lifestyle. But if the market goes down, now we're only going to pull out 2.5%. Well, again, what issues could we run into there? If you are completely dependent on that initial first year rate and the market goes down in the first few years, how are you going to recover or adjust to make sure you don't run out of money but can still live your lifestyle without having to sell your home or move in with your kids or something like that? The next rule they talk about is the bucket method. And the bucket method is, rather than having a set rate, they recommend separating your dollars. So this example is, they say if you have 2 buckets, and the first bucket is in safe liquid assets like high-grade bonds and money market funds for the first 5 years. So if you know you need to spend $50,000 a year, put $250,000 in, and you're good to go for the first 5 years, regardless of market fluctuations. And then the rest of your money is in the second bucket in more aggressive investments that you hope to grow during those first 5 years. So I like the idea of being safe in the first 5 years, but what about after that, or there's going to be kind of some tricks involved or some strategy that's going to have to be involved with this, that you're going to have to hope the market does what you want it to when you want it to. Because if it goes down again after those 5 years or at the wrong time and you haven't shifted your money at the right time, that could be detrimental to your planning. And as we all know, people don't like to admit it, but trying to time the market is pretty much impossible. So that's again it's pretty much another strategy to try to time the market with your risk. The last strategy is the RMD method. So for those of you not aware of what the RMD method is, or what RMD stands for, RMD is what the IRS calls required minimum distributions. So for any money you have invested in traditional 401ks and accounts like that, before you're 59 and a half, you cannot use your money without outside stipulations. I won't get into all of them, but there's fees and things like that you have to apply for. There are some extenuating circumstances, but generally speaking, that money is locked up because of the tax deferred status until you're 59 and a half. And then for about 10 years, you get to have control over your money. You get to decide when and how you want to spend it. But then come age 70 and a half, guess what? The IRS steps back into your life and they say, now you have to take out a required minimum distribution. So even if you don't want to take out money, you have to, because they want some of the taxes. And each year they call you, or they don't actually call you, they send you a letter, or your advisor looks up what are your required minimum distributions. So each year you have to pull out a set amount determined by them, not you. If you want to pull out more, that's up to you. So in this method, they're basically saying, all right, let's wait until we're 70 and a half, and then we'll take out whatever the IRS determines we should take out. But I'm wondering, why do we think the IRS has a good idea of how much we need to spend to live our life, especially in retirement? Whether you want to live on a lake or on a golf course or travel to see your kids or follow your grandkids around, why should we let someone else's rules dictate how we want to live our lives? So I think that's kind of an iffy strategy there, and could be interesting, especially if you want to retire earlier than 70. And it leaves very little control with our money. So those are 4 ways that are required. I think at the end of the day, a few things to keep in mind is a lot of traditional financial planning strategies are very dependent on what the market does, and hopeful that the market doesn't go down at the wrong times. So I think what we have to ask ourselves are there ways that we can plan around that and not be so dependent on the market? But another big point is there's a lot of moving parts. So really, the earlier we start thinking about these things, the better. Again, this is Drew Erickson talking about money, not math. If you have questions, thoughts, or comments, please let me know in the comments section. And if there's anything you'd like me to talk about specifically in the future, I'd appreciate you letting me know that too. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye.